1 year ago.
Look at that! Oh my God, look at that!
A night many will never forget.
When it rained, thunder, and lightning, it still kind of bothered me.
An EF2 tornado touchdown.
Wow, this looks like Armageddon.
Homes and schools destroyed. Lives changed forever.
And you don't think that it can happen to you until it happens to you.
Shock turned to action as the community came together to rebuild and find hope. A bond still felt today.
We are blooming where we are planted.
WXII-12 News presents the April 15th tornado, 1 year later.
Good evening, I'm Kenny Beck.
And I'm Talitha Vickers. We are on Apache Street in East Greensboro, the place that many once considered ground zero after an EF2 tornado touched down on April 15th, 2018. Several homes once stood on this block. This video from Sky 12 shows the damage in the days after the tornado. The home on this lot reduced to rubble.
Right now, this lot behind me sits empty, nothing but tree limbs and debris. I had the opportunity to walk through this neighborhood with the mayor of Greensboro, Nancy Vaughn, who still has vivid memories of April 15th, 2018. She tells me it's been a long year, or at least it feels that way. She was out to dinner with friends the night of the tornado, and she says she got a call from the city manager telling her what had happened. From that point, she tells me she felt like she was on a movie set.
The interesting thing with the tornado is that there can be one house or one business and it'll just skip right over it.
Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn calls it Ground Zero, Apache Street between Banner Avenue and English Street. This is what it looks like a year after a deadly EF2 tornado swept through the eastern part of the city. She remembers what it looked like just hours after.
The next morning, I took a ride with the police chief and I was unprepared to see what had happened to the houses, to the people.
Unprepared, how so?
The houses that didn't exist anymore, the roofs that were off, the absolute devastation in these neighborhoods was beyond anything I thought I would ever see.
How do you begin to organize the response to an event like this?
Well, I'm fortunate. We've got a great professional staff. We have wonderful emergency management. But, I'm thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to get people shelter? How are we going to get them food?
Was that the top priority at the time?
Yes, just to make sure that the people who no longer had homes, that they were going to have shelter, that we knew that some people were going to need shelter for the long haul. One of the scariest pictures that I think all of us, especially we as parents, took away were the trailers of Hampton Elementary School. And we all thank God that this happened on a Sunday, late Sunday afternoon, because those trailers were reduced to nothing.
They got lucky with the day of the week, but not with what was destroyed. Affordable housing, a big problem in Greensboro before the storm, and it's only gotten worse since. What needs to happen to get this part of the city back to close to where it was before?
It's going to take money.
Vaughn says she's asked the state legislature for $1 million in seed money. If she gets it, she'll be grateful, but it will only go so far. Many people who used to live or rent on Apache didn't have insurance or can't afford another monthly bill to pay back a FEMA loan, so they moved away. Still, she remains optimistic.
We see a glimmer of hope with a house that's being built across the street. Hopefully one day we'll see a lot of pretty houses like this along Apache Street and throughout the rest of these streets around this area. It's not going to be an easy fix, but the city is in here for the long haul, and I hope that they will be too.
The Storm Recovery Alliance and Invest East campaign are a couple of local organizations aimed at keeping recovery and all efforts to move the city forward front and center as the months go by. You can learn more about those two organizations by visiting our website, WXII-12.com.
When a tornado is about to strike, it certainly takes a team of meteorologists to get the information out to the people who need to hear it. Ryan Ellis was one of the meteorologists working at the National Weather Service in Raleigh, running the radar on April 15th, 2018. He and his radar team issued the tornado warning. He retraced his steps from warning to recovery with Chief Meteorologist Laney Pope.
And then the next scan that we have, there's the warning, and you can see it even more even more
And what's the
impressive with
location
that
there?
signature. That's right over our heads right here at Hampton Elementary, basically.
Not only was Ryan Ellis one of the ones to issue the tornado warning, he was on the scene to survey the damage the very next day.
You had all of these power lines were down across the road, pieces of roof, cars everywhere, people just kind of walking each direction, kind of in a fog.
No one died from the tornado. 3 people were injured. It's a miracle when you consider tornadoes this big and dangerous almost never happen in central North Carolina. A high-end EF2 with winds close to 140 miles per hour that touched down in downtown Greensboro stayed on the ground for 33 miles, 16 of those in heavily populated Guilford County.
It's almost like a pit in your stomach, especially knowing exactly where that was happening, right over downtown, because we knew from that point on we had very little time to get the warning out to the public.
People in the path of this tornado would have 2 to 5 minutes to seek safety. This advanced warning may not seem like much, but if you have your plan in place, you can get to safety in less than a minute.
We asked, did they get the warning? And in this area in particular, everybody said, yeah, we got the warning. We were able to get to our safe place, and boy, we are lucky to be alive.
That was not the case in 1936 when 17 people died and 44 were injured when an eerily similar tornado moved through downtown Greensboro. Now, meteorologists have advances in technology to see a storm's threat sooner and in more detail. Reflectivity images show heavy rain and may show the familiar hook echo. This one did not, because it was buried in heavy squall line rain. So other technology is needed, and for that we use velocity images, those red and green squares that allow us to see inbound and outbound winds, showing us the center of rotation. Sometimes, though, that rotation can be several thousand feet off the ground and may never touch down. And in this case, that was happening all day long in the southeast.
We had seen probably 10 to 20 storms already on this day that look exactly like this.
So no warning yet? At
no
that
warning
point,
yet.
Because you'd seen it.
Yep, we've seen it. And then the next scan, you can see it starting to tighten up quite a bit. And then, boom, right there.
Yep. The velocity images then showed tightening of the rotation. That's when the tornado warning was issued.
We now have a tornado warning. It is out for Guilford County. Now this storm...
And then a relatively new piece of warning technology confirmed what radar operators feared.
The scan before, you don't see it, so the warning was out, and then there it is right there. So literally just a couple of minutes for people to get to their safe place.
What Ryan saw was a ball of debris the tornado had picked up. It showed up blue on this correlation coefficient image. It measures the size of things in the air, like raindrops, hail, and in this case, debris. This allows meteorologists to issue further statements to media meteorologists like me that this is a radar-confirmed tornado, and it's on the ground in downtown Greensboro, just north of Business 85.
So this would be intense rotation for our part of the country.
And that's when the hair on the back of my neck stands on end. And I know what I have to do. Quickly, thoroughly, and calmly, I relay street names and the location of this destructive tornado while telling people where to go to be safe.
That's the pit in your stomach, because this is one of the best signatures I've ever seen of the debris, which means there's a lot.
I knew we were going to have damage, and unfortunately, a lot of it. I just hoped that our message was getting out to the people in its path and they were in their safe place. I'm almost holding my breath, and then the damage reports start coming into the newsroom.
I've been doing this over 25 years, and this looks like a tornado.
The most remarkable damage story Ryan heard the next day was from a family in a turn of the 20th century home.
They actually found their relative about 100 yards away, sitting propped up next to a washing machine that was in the house, and they're all alive.
And the woman in this now rebuilt home is alive too. Last year, only one wall remained. She was in the tub with a mattress on top of her, doing just what meteorologists like Ryan and I teach on television, in schools, and in seminars every week of the year.
That protection of life is the most rewarding thing, and when you can come directly to the community, speak directly to that person, look in their eye, and they say, not only did they get the warning, but they knew what to do. Maybe their parents didn't have it, but now their kid has told them, and maybe someday that piece of information saves their life.
No lives were lost in the tornado that day, but lives were forever changed. and some of the physical structures are still in disrepair. It's a long road to recovery, to put back together what Mother Nature tore apart in just a few minutes.
On that day, you knew that even if it did take a year, 2 years, they were going to stick together and they were going to come back.
One person was killed during the storm last April. Anthony George was driving on Cone Boulevard when a tree fell on his car. His wife was also in the car. She was not injured. The National Weather Service says it happened during a thunderstorm and not the tornado. Shortly after George's death, his wife told us the family was in shock and they would lean on their faith to get them through it. After touching down in Guilford County, the tornado hopscotched its way through Rockingham County, damaging dozens of homes, destroying several of them.
Right. About a year later, most storm survivors say they're grateful just to be alive, but also extraordinarily appreciative of all the support they got from their neighbors.
Bill O'Neill has the story from Rockingham County.
The storm stands out for me because it hit dangerously close to my own house. Like everyone else, I was glued to the TV listening as Laney told us exactly where the tornado was, step by step. Minutes later, I was here in Rockingham County covering the tornado and seeing the damage firsthand. According to the sheriff, Sam Page, he tells us there were 2 injuries in this storm. Both of them were 2 people inside of this silver Lexus.
I couldn't hold the cellar door shut. It pulled it out of my hand, so I just went right around the corner and sat down with my dogs and prayed.
The thing came awfully close to your house.
God was holding it in his hands.
A little fear and a lot of faith. That's what carried Martha Gunn and many of her neighbors through that scary night a year ago. As night turned into day, homeowners found extensive damage, like this home along Grooms Road in Reedsville. Built more than 100 years ago, today that 2-story house is gone, replaced by a brand new 1-story brick home, handicap accessible for the Murphy family. Do you miss the old house?
Not as bad as I thought I would. This one is so much nicer, suits our needs so much more, and it's just a blessing to have it.
The modular home that crashed into a passing car along Grooms Road that night has also been replaced.
I kind of think about it like, there's no way this will happen again.
Not every homeowner has been that lucky. A year later, there are still homes in Reedsville and Ruffin in need of repair and piles of debris waiting for someone to haul away. But the one common thread we found here is gratitude. Storm victims tell us their neighbors, friends, and even strangers showed up the very next day to help.
There were probably 30 people out here with backhoes and bobcats and tractors and chainsaws, and I didn't know half of them.
Barbara Brown says her farm and vehicles took a beating in the storm, but her Longhorn survived unscathed.
Downspout like that.
You caught your foot.
In my...
Martha Gunn survived the storm without a scratch, but hurt herself in a fall during the cleanup. Still, she and her husband Skip are thankful the fallen trees missed them as well as their home.
And we still have each other. We still have the house, and we thank him for it.
Living through a tornado can change a person's view on the weather. Do you have any different perspective about storms now?
Oh, I take them seriously now. Because this is Reedsville. Stuff like that don't happen in...
Spencer Morgan says he now relies on a weather app to keep an eye on storms. Barbara Brown says she now listens for the train whistle anytime the weather turns bad.
You get used to the train coming by, and that's exactly what it sounded like. So now when you hear the rumble, you're listening for the whistle.
No whistle means you're in trouble.
Yeah, no whistle means go to basement.
When I first walked into school, it was just unbelievable. I cried. It was just almost like impossible.
Still ahead, we revisit students and teachers at one of the schools relocated after the tornado, what they did to prepare for a quick transition, and how they're doing today.
And later, the stories of 2 people who are counting their blessings.
Life has returned to normal for many in this area, but 3 schools in particular sit empty tonight.
All right, students at Hampton Elementary, Peeler Open Elementary, and Erwin Montessori all had to be relocated to different schools last year. A year later, they are all still there.
We visited Alamance Elementary, the new home for Erwin Montessori, to see how they're doing.
What does the word greater mean?
It's a regular school day at Erwin Montessori School.
I didn't say greater. I said less or least.
First grade students in Karen Wallace's class are studying math, but 1 year ago, things didn't add up for these students.
Wow. Emotions were just unbelievably sad. It was just very difficult to see that.
Erwin Montessori was one of 3 schools badly damaged by this tornado.
When I first walked into school, it was just unbelievable. I cried. It was just almost like impossible. I could not believe this had happened. Windows broken, ceilings had caved in. It looked like a tornado had hit it.
The state of the school, not the only problem for Principal Deborah Parker.
One of the first things that I thought about was the families that we know that live in the area.
How are we going to help our families with what has just occurred mentally and things that they need inside their homes?
Part of that recovery was finding new schools for students to attend.
That decision had to be made pretty quick because we were in the midst of school time at that point.
Chief Operating Officer Scott McCulley knew it was critical to regain a sense of normalcy by relocating these students, a decision that involved several factors, the most important being finding schools that were better than the ones they had been in. Erwin Montessori moved to Alamance Elementary, about 15 minutes away.
It was like a whirlwind. Everything happened so fast. We had so much support, so much help. And so we were able to start school that following Monday, and it was unbelievable.
School staff worked around the clock to make sure the new classrooms were ready physically and teachers were prepared emotionally.
We know if the staff was not, then they would not be able to give anything to the kids that were coming back that had lots of emotional issues and concerns about what had happened.
The transition from this to this went as smoothly as anyone could have hoped.
The adjustment was positive because we were positive, the teachers. We embraced our students, we listened to them, we talked to them. He chomps the biggest number, so what would be a synonym for chomps?
Now, 1 year later, Erwin Montessori students and teachers are settled into their routine.
As the saying goes, bloom where you're planted. So we are blooming where we are planted.
The future is unclear for Erwin Montessori, but for now, the United Alamance Wolves and Erwin Eagles are displayed proudly on this mural in the lobby.
Our slogan has been Together We Can, and I think we are showing that together we are stronger. Together we are stronger.
The school system doesn't yet know the future of the 3 school buildings that were badly damaged in the tornado. The chief operating officer tells us that they're still negotiating with the insurance carrier and they hope it'll be settled sometime soon. Once it is, district leaders will look at the needs of the overall school district as they decide what to do about the damaged buildings.
Sometimes I cry, I don't mean to, but I just can't help it. I just overjoyed, I guess.
Up next, Mallory Lane introduces us to 2 people who lived through the tornado and still found reasons to be thankful. We've heard about the devastation parts of East Greensboro suffered as a result of this storm.
We're talking millions of dollars worth of damage, homes torn apart. In fact, many of them still sit empty today.
Despite the pain, the devastation, and frankly the frustration, there are some residents who are instead choosing to focus on hope.
Mallory Lane brings us the story of 2 people who are counting their blessings.
Today, Mary Kerlock sits on her front porch watching as cars drive by. During the lulls of passing cars, you hear hammers pounding nearby. A crew is working on a bright blue house across the street.
They're doing a wonderful job.
This street used to be filled with families.
To me, I don't think the community is where it used to be.
It used to be a buzzing neighborhood.
Nobody's on the side of us. I have 2 neighbors, and that's it on the whole block.
Now that bright blue house is a bright spot, a sign of what Kerlock hopes will come. Her community built back to what it was before April 15th, 2018.
This is how quickly this storm is moving to the north and to the east along Highway 29.
Kerlock watched the tornado touch down on East Bessemer Avenue, her family crouching for cover, praying for safety among total strangers who had run inside.
they took shelter as well, and then all the ones that just started popping out, bang, bang, bang. The door flew off, it slung my son back into this room, and then it threw him back out, and he landed right there behind the door, then the door blew off.
And then, just like that, Kerlock says it was over.
There was no roof back here, no windows. The inside was damaged, all this was damaged, it was nothing. Trees all in the front yard, all the windows knocked out, telephone poles, it was just like a ghost town.
Kerlock can't remember where she slept that night, but for the next 6 months she stayed in 2 hotels. She moved back into this house on October 22nd, and she thanks her landlord for that turnaround.
It's really helped me and my family a lot, Mr. Milton, a lot, do you hear me? And he took his money out of his pocket and fixed the house, and that was a blessing.
A blessing. It's a word Kerlock uses to describe how her community rallied after April 15th.
It was a blessing that the outpour people that helped. It was a blessing, a true blessing. People were everywhere, up and down the streets helping in the communities. I feel like I'm one of the blessed ones. I really do, amongst the ones that's been able to return home.
I still do. I cried. I can't help it.
Dave Harris was home with his wife when the tornado touched down.
The wind that's shaking, the blinds, that like you beating on them.
The storm knocked trees down all around him. His son's home next door destroyed after 3 trees fell on its roof. Harris says he can't afford to fix it, and it's not safe to live in now. It's filled with mildew and asbestos. But Harris's home, his front yard garden, were untouched that Sunday afternoon.
And I kind of believe by having Jesus and the angels there, is they fell back. Like the wind has blown it back. That's the heavy concrete right there. It has blown it back and storm went over. And you know that's a blessing there. So I got a lot to be thankful for.
It's why he says he made this sign.
I see people say, thank you, Jesus, for a different thing. This is true.
He knows the storm's devastation runs deep in the Greensboro community, but he's thankful, blessed even, and he wants the world to know it.
The Lord just blessed me.
That's our report for tonight. Thanks for tuning in for this look back at last year's tornado in Greensboro and Rockingham County, as well as our look ahead to future recovery efforts.
The tornado certainly took its toll, but the community proved the triad is stronger together.
And if you'd like to get involved in the ongoing recovery efforts, we have a lot of information, a lot of resources on our website, WXII-12.com.
From all of us to all of you, thanks for watching. Good night.